if you have a certain sense of humility, it's not that big a deal to be a sideman, you know. If I'm going to do a gig with Questlove, okay, well, what's the gig? Okay, we're playing funk. What are the rules of funk? What are the rules inside of this band as it, you know, relates to funk? Okay, that's what I'll do. You know, if I'm going to do a gig with Paul Simon, it's my job to do what Paul Simon's music demands. You know, if he wants me to play a certain kind of feel, I'll play that certain kind of feel. Now, if an issue comes up where I think I may be able to contribute something that he didn't think of, I'll say, hey, Paul, what do you think if I do this? And then he has the power to say yes or no. And if he says yes, great. If he says no, that's his prerogative. It's his band, you know. If I can find a comfortable spot in all of these different kinds of bands and still make the band feel good, that makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Because that means a lot of people know that they can call me and they'll get what they need. The preparation depends on, again, it depends on who's calling you. You know, I mean, I'm not going to consciously prepare for anything if Questlove calls me because I know him. You know, we have history together. I know what he plays like. He knows what I play like. So we just show up and play. Somebody like a Pat Metheny, unless he sends me music ahead of time, which can happen. If he sends me music ahead of time and says, hey, take a look at this, then I'll learn it, you know. But there's really not a whole lot of conscious preparation that you have to do for a particular gig unless they tell you that they want something specific. I've had a few different instruments throughout my career, but my main instrument is a German acoustic bass that was built in 1920. I've been using that bass now for 20 years. When I play the electric bass, I tend to think of them as two completely different worlds. You know, obviously from a physical standpoint, they're extremely different worlds. For starters, my callus on my middle finger here has gotten so big, I can't really play the electric bass with my middle finger anymore, so I had to train myself how to play with 1 and 3. So this is how I play the electric bass, you know, and that's something a lot different, you know, because when I first started to play the electric bass a little more consistently in the late 90s when I started my my hybrid band, I call it, my touch on the electric bass just didn't feel good. So I kept thinking, what's wrong? So then I realized that, you know, my finger's too big and too thick that I kept overplaying. And so I said, oh man, I gotta learn how to get that in, because I just couldn't feel it, you know. So even if I tried to lighten my touch, you know, just this foot of a finger here just made it sound strange. So that's about it. Soloing is it's never been a primary concern for me. Although I did decide that when it came time for me to solo, I had to do the best job I could do. And when I started learning how to improvise, I didn't enjoy most bass solos. So most of my soloing was influenced by horn players or Jaco. You know, Jaco Pastorius was probably, Jaco and Paul Chambers were probably the only two bass players I can think of as kids, when I was a kid rather, who I listened to and thought, now those are two bass players whose notes I can understand. And I was also a fan of Mark Johnson's too. His band Bass Desires, that was a band I listened to often when I was in high school. But most people I tried to copy were McCoy Tyner, Joe Henderson, Freddie Hubbard, George Benson. You know, I was always trying to learn what they played because it was clear. I could understand what they were doing and how it related harmonically and rhythmically to the entire band. Whereas I thought most bass solos were muddy. I couldn't understand what they were doing. So That's pretty much my concept, man. I've always tried to play like a more traditionally melodic instrument, you know. So no one has to sit there and figure out what I'm trying to play, you know. Play it with rhythmic and melodic assuredness, you know. But when that's over, time to get back to the post, you know, and play the bass part, you know.